Alrighty. All right. Hey y'all, it's Quilla, and I'm just gonna do a real quick one about the lymphatic system. Hey y'all, it's Quilla, and okay, so wanted to present to you guys the lymphatic system because that is for this month. That runs from like let me see, hold on, give me a second here, and I can tell you when it runs. Each plant, and I'll explain what I mean by that. All right, the lymphatic system, we're looking at, oh, okay, actually, we're looking at June 22nd through July 21st. So that's Cancer, all right? And I'm not being funny here, but that's Cancer there. There we go. So I see the live now. So I want to make sure that I can hear you guys can hear me. All right. So that way, if you have any questions or anything, great. Cancer there. All right. Okay, so the lymphatic system and Kevin Samuels, what the two have together. Well, basically, the lymphatic system is one of your largest systems that is mostly misunderstood. All right. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to share, thank goodness I'm using Zoom. I'm going to share with you an article that I actually wrote about it on the lymphatic system. And I put it in Canva. I also have it on my blog. And so I'll go over it with you really quick about what it is and why it's so important, and then what it had to do with Kevin Samuels. Okay. All right. So here, there we go. All right, this lymphatic system, first of all, is a really large system. It's like 3 or 4 times larger than your blood system. So the problem is, in the medical field, they are always focusing on the blood. And what they don't understand is that the blood is always going to keep itself in homeostasis unless you really F up. Yeah. So the blood is normally supposed to be in a pH range of 7.35 to 7.45. And it's going to stay in that range. No matter what it has to do to stay in that range, it will. Because when it starts getting out of that range, we start seeing heart attack, strokes, or, other issues. You don't have long to live when you start acidifying the blood. So the question is, hey, Iris. The question is, what's going on with the lymphatic system and how that relates to Kevin Samuels. And I'm going to show you Kevin Samuels' birth chart. Okay. So Kevin Samuels' birth chart, he was born, it says March 13th, 1965 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. How did I get that information? I got the information from Vlad TV. That's VLAD TV. And he interviewed Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels told, gave an excerpt of his life story, right? So it let us know what was going on with Kevin Samuels because he came out of his own mouth. So sometimes when you go online, you'll find that they'll say that Kevin Samuels was born 1969. They said he was born in Atlanta. This man said it out of his own mouth. So I'm taking that information from that. What I don't have for his astral reading is his time of birth. So I got as close as I could. Sometimes the time of birth will matter depending on the location, and sometimes it does not. So I got as close as I could to this, but let's go over the lymphatic system and why this really, really large but misunderstood system is so important. So the lymphatic system, basically, it runs side by side the blood system and other places that the blood doesn't run. But wherever there are cells, you're going to have your lymphatic system there too. So it runs through all tissues, organs, glands, everything. So if there's a cell, that cell, has to have that guy there. So what modern science, and I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you guys can see this, what modern science knows about the lymphatic system right now is incorrect. And here's the other thing. In 1966, they actually banned and hid this information about the lymphatic system, and it was forbidden to be taught in medical school. Okay. So you're going to ask yourself, if you're curious, like I am, it's like, why? Why is that? Right. So in 2015, the University of Virginia rediscovered the lymphatic vessels in the brain meninges. So they had said in the textbooks before, in their A&P textbooks, this is anatomy and physiology, they had said, hey, there is no lymphatic system in the brain. But what they did, they ignored all the history of other people who are anatomists and other people who were into anatomy and that had broken down the body system. And they literally, modern day science, literally ignored all that old information. Okay. And one of the things that you'll see here is that they're 200 years late on discovering the lymphatic vessels that are in the head or in the brain. There's a scientist or autonomous, and here he is. There's his name. I can't say it. Paolo Masciani. I think in Italian is Johnny. So I think that's Masciani or something. I'm not sure. But he had a book that he published in 1784. That was a long time ago. And guess what he said, what he showed here. And here you can go to this link and see the actual book that's online. The guy mapped out, using cadavers, mapped out the brain, and he mapped out the lymphatic system. That's what this book is about, okay? And in this book, he has this illustration of the physical brain matter that you can see, and he's mapping out the lymphatic system of the face and the head, neck area, all of that. Then he gets really intricate and he maps and numbers these things here. And this is the lymphatic system in the actual brain itself. It's all over the place. The lymphatic system is everywhere. So when that was found out, here's how pompous we are. So this rediscovery from the University of Virginia, right? One of the professors, this Jonathan Kipnis guy, said, I really did not believe there were structures in the body that we were not aware of. I thought the body was mapped. How these vessels could have escaped detection when the lymphatic system has been so thoroughly mapped throughout the body is surprising on its own. All right. That's what he said. Another guy, Kevin Lee, said they'll have to rewrite the textbooks because of this finding. And I put the link there for Virginia U, the article that they actually wrote. But the thing about it is they don't hardly know the body like you think they know. Most of what they know about the body is theory, because when you're working on cadavers, you're not looking at the body in vitro. You're not looking at the body live and in effect. So really, a lot of the things that they think are really going on in the body is just a theory. So when you find out that they work, the science community works on theories a lot, that's when you kind of get discouraged and you're like, all right, now I got to go back into old books and see what they have wrote, because they've hidden so much from us now that they don't want you to know about it. Because when the medical community came on board, they kicked everybody else off the bus. As Dr. Peter Glidden, he always says it that way. The medical association was like, you know what? You guys are my competition. I need to get rid of you. And the way I can do that is through a report called the Fleckner Report. And this is how I'm going to get rid of my competition, because I can't have homeopathy, in my way. I can't have naturopathy in my way. I can't have, if you name some of the other ones, chiropractic, the chiropractors in my way. I can't have them in my way. So thankfully, the chiropractors were able to fight them and get back where they were licensed and recognized. But what the Medical Association is known for and what they're good for is emergency medicine, trauma medicine. That's what they're good at. And that's their wheelhouse. If you need surgery, you've been in an accident, you need someone to take care of you, that's who you go see, right? So anyways, there's so much about the body we still don't know. So this huge system here is one of the systems they really don't know about. I have one of my a professor who teaches AMP, and she says one of the things that her students tell her all the time is they don't know much about the lymphatic system, and there's a reason for that, in which I've mentioned. They hit it. All right, so what does this lymphatic system do, and what does that have to do with Kevin Samuel? So we're going to get to that, right? So the lymphatic system, what happens here is the lymphatic system is a fluid, and it sits in between the cells. And what it does, your cells are swimming in a fluid, and what your cells will do, sometimes there is extra fluid around those cells and it needs to be pulled away. Sometimes those cells are damaged or dying, they get pulled away into this lymphatic system. So what does this lymphatic system consist of? You got damaged cells, cancer cells, white blood cells, bacteria, the friendly type, the interstitial fluid overflow. So it pulls when you have too much liquid, it pulls that. And then there's fat soluble escape proteins and small parasites or pathogens. Okay, that's what's in the lymphatic system. All right, so the lymphatic system also includes your lymph nodes. This, if you are a woman, and most people in this group are women, you hear of lymph nodes in the breast area, right? So when you have this issue in the breast and those lymph nodes get swollen, sometimes you can feel them right here. What's going on in there? All right, so what happens is the white blood cells and your bacteria inside of these lymph nodes, that's your sewage, guys. That's dirt coming in, and those are your sanitary workers. So your sanitary workers are going to pick up the trash, you're going to eat the trash. So that's what the white blood cells do. They eat and the bacteria eats. And that's what's living in here. So what happens when you take antibiotics? Anybody ever think of that? You're wiping out the bacteria that helps you clean up your sanitary system. So your sewage system, what happens is it's like you laid off all of your sanitary workers and there's no one to clean up the trash. So the white blood cells are like, yo, what happened to everybody? And so they're kind of have to pick up the job on their own, right? So when that happens, you're going to have an excess of this fluid, or you're going to have more dirt in your sewer system, right? So the thing about it is when we start having issues with the lymph nodes, you're going to start having edema because they're helping out with cleaning up this trash. But when this extra excess fluid is not being pulled and processed and then getting rid of, you're going to have a backup. So here's the thing to think about with our breast size. If we, let's say in our 20s, 30s, after we had babies, sometimes our breast size, if we were in high school and our breast size was like, say, a 36B cup, sometimes we get older, we mess around and be up in the double Ds or sometimes bigger than that. What's going on with the breast? Because we know that the body actually stops growing at a certain point in life, right? I think for women it's around like in our from late teens to early 20s is when we stop growing. I want to say it's in our teen years actually. So why is the breast still growing, especially as we gain weight? You got to think about it. here showing you the lymph nodes here, you got the boobs here, our bras, and sometimes other lifestyle choices that we make will cause a stagnation in this area. Because when you think about the bras, especially the underwire bras, you're causing a lot of lymphatic stagnation. So when the lymph doesn't have anywhere to go and it can't get to here, right? Because let's say these things are clogged up, then the breast size is going to get a lot bigger. So think about when your breast started growing in size after your growth years. So now you're starting to look at the lymphedema in this area of the boobs. This is why one of the first videos I did for you guys was about the boobs, because you got to look at that, because that's so really important, because if this stuff doesn't move, that's when the cells get damaged and you're going to have cancer. This is how this happens. All right. So with the lymphatic system and cancer, so I'm going to move from there and I'm going to move over to Kevin Samuels. Okay. So Kevin Samuels, let's look at his birth chart to see what happened with him. What he says, and I'm not talking about the death he just recently had, but it is associated. Okay. But what we're looking at here, he said in his interview with Vlad TV, he says that when he was around 21 years old, he had a pain in his stomach, and he went from emergency room doctors and everything else, and he was trying to get someone to look at his stomach, and they kept saying, oh, it's just an ulcer, you'll be fine, this, that, and the other. So he had to demand treatment, and they finally got him on an MRI machine. And when they did, they saw on the MRI machine, it says that there was a mass on his stomach the size of his foot. All right. So I want you to remember that. A mass on his stomach the size of his foot. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at his red lines. This is what I do. This is called Cosmo Biology, and other tribes, they call it biocosmology, but the true science of it is Cosmo Biology. All right. And I can show you the chart that I use is right here from International Astrologers. This is the guy that said, hey, I'm writing a book on cosmobiology. It's a German-based science using astrology, but this is the guy that you want to look up. And this was translated from German by this Mary lady. I can't say her last name. So I'm going to use these degrees in this book, and it's for each of these. Okay, so let's look at Libra. Libra is here, and I'm going to walk you through, I'm sorry, Virgo. We're gonna look at Virgo for Kevin, sorry. And I'm gonna walk you through what it says, all right? Okay, so let's go back. All right, so we're looking at his red line. So he has a red line from his sun, his Chiron, we're looking at Venus, we're looking at Saturn. What does that mean? All right, so the sun represents the heart, okay? And there's a red line from it all the way to Saturn. Saturn represents constrictions and restrictions. When you're having a heart attack or a stroke, you're looking at a restriction in the circulatory system. The sun represents the heart, the blood circulatory system, and the red blood cells. So when you're having a stroke, the red blood cells are not bending. What it is, you ate a diet that was so acidic that the flexibility of the red blood cells, those guys can really bend and go into really tiny, tiny spaces like your capillaries, right? But when you are eating a high acid diet, you're going to start messing with the pH of the body, in the blood, all right? That the blood can only handle but so much abuse. So like I said, if you don't keep it in that homeostasis, a 7.35 pH to 7.45 pH, you're going to be in trouble. And one of the German books that I have here on purification of the body, they said that around the heart muscle, the pH around the heart muscle naturally runs around 6.9 pH. That's on the acid side of the house, right? Because 7.0 pH is neutral. So follow me on this one. When you start getting down to 6.6 pH or lower, 6.5 pH, 6.9, 3 pH, you're going to get taken up out of here, because now you're starting to mess with the rigidity or the flow of the blood and the way that the red blood cells react. So when they become rigid and they're going through these tiny capillaries and veins, on this way back to the heart, you're going to be in trouble. Now you're going to have a traffic jam, and now it's going to stop the flow to the heart. And so with Saturn sitting here, I mean, it's constriction and restriction when it's in detriment. Now we're looking at a constriction, restriction to the blood flow to the heart, or to the capillaries, or to the, so when we're looking at circulatory system, we're looking at the brain and everything else. So you're looking at a restriction of the flow. All right. So we're looking at the cause of death. Now let's look at what happened when he was 21 years old. And let's see where that was. He has detriments from point to point. Up here, sun going down to these two guys here for the sun, so we're looking at Uranus and Pluto. Then we're looking at Venus going to all three, to Uranus, Pluto, and Mars. And then we're looking at Saturn going to all three, Uranus, Pluto, and Mars. So when we're looking at Saturn, Saturn is constriction, restrictions, and tumors. All right. And so we're going to get down to the degree, but we're looking at restrictions and constrictions and tumors. Okay, that's what that means. So looking at his Uranus, now they're all sitting in Virgo. Virgo, in the system that I was taught for medical Cosmo Biology, Virgo represents the digestive system. Okay. So when Virgo represents the digestive system, these guys have degrees in each one of them, right? And we go over here. So I look at Uranus, I'm looking at 12 degree Virgo. When I'm looking at Pluto, which means the life and birth situation, like it's the weakness was there at his birth, or it could be the weakness that caused his death. So we're looking at 14 degree Virgo. And then we're looking at Mars, 17 degree Virgo. So let's go to that chart and see what that means when we start getting down to the nitty gritty, because otherwise, when I'm looking at Saturn, there's a restriction. So Saturn, tumors, restrictions, where? I'm looking at a restriction or constriction of the electrical circulation, right? That's what Uranus means, is for electrical circulation, the meridians, where, there was a problem there. And this is all during his birth, right? And it says that, hey, sometime in your life, whether you're young or old, and this whole lifetime that you're here, these are the planets that were pulling on you at the time of your birth. And because of that, this is going to affect your health. So that's why I do this reading. I do this reading for a lot of people. Now for Pluto, Pluto means the cause of birth. It was there at the birth or the weakness or a cause of death. So because of what I do know and what I practice as a detox specialist, when we're looking at birth, constrictions, right? Tumors possibly at birth, then I have to look at mom. Because when mom is carrying these babies, the baby has to share mom's lymphatic system and mom's blood system. So if mommy's lymphatic system is not moving, the baby's lymphatic system will not be moving. Here's how I know this. Kevin says that he had this stomach cancer at age 21. So at age 21, this man has a lymphoma. He had Hodgkin's lymphoma. Basically, it's a cancer, right? And he had this mass for him was on his stomach. Okay. 90% of your cancers are going to happen in the lymphatic system. This is the reason why this system is so important to know, but it's the most misunderstood. Okay. Now, Mars, we're looking at a restriction or constrictions with his neurological system. So when I'm looking at the neurological system, I automatically have to look at the brain, central nervous system, and I also have to look at the autonomic nervous system. All right. So those are the three systems I always have to look at, and I can't leave them out by themselves. Now, was Kevin Samuels drinking a Red Bull every once in a while when you watch his show? Yeah. That let me know that, oh, he's starting to run out of energy. And we're going to get the energy from the cells by the cells, producing ATP within the mitochondria. So that lets me know that he was starting to fail in digestion, absorption, and utilization, especially in utilization. He was having issues, right? And that's just from the practice that I do, all right? Okay, so now let's look at these degrees down here, because he had major detriments here, right? So let's go to the chart. And we said that we're looking at Uranus. That's the first one we're going to look at. And that was on the 12th degree of Virgo. Uranus, abdominal aorta. See, I'm sharing this with y'all so y'all know I'm not lying. Medical astrology is where it's at. Yeah, you got all the personalities and all that of astrology or cartomancy and all that. That's cool. But when it comes to the medical astrology, you can find out ahead of time what your weaknesses are from the jump. He had a weakness right here on the abdominal aorta, right? But we're looking at the digestive system, okay? So now the next one was Pluto on the 14th degree. And that actually, in the book that I have, Pluto has it as a cyst, okay? Cyst in the area and an issue with the gallbladder artery, okay? So we're dealing with blood flow, restrictions of blood flow, all right? And restrictions of not just blood flow, but also lymphatic flow, all right? Because the two run right beside each other. All right, so now we're looking at, let me see, Mars 17th degree, abdominal muscle having it, oops, here it is, abdominal muscle having an issue, okay? So weakness there. And this is something that if he was either born with, a genetic weakness that he had, or something that was developed over time because of how he was possibly eating or treating his body. Usually this comes from birth. And that usually is something that mom has developed inside the womb. The child is born, the doctors ain't gonna pick up on that because they're not really testing for it, you know, and especially in the Black neighborhood and in the Black community, they really don't be looking at us like that, you know? So a lot of times we don't get the same services as other racial groups, you know? All right, so let's go back. And so now we're going to, so we talked about these guys and what's going on with them. You know, we got nerves, life and birth, and we're looking at this, the circulation of the nervous system and the electronic circulation there, the signaling, right? So now the other red sign that he had was Jupiter. Jupiter represents swelling when it's in detriment, okay? So swelling, and when we're starting to look at Neptune, Neptune is the surface of the organs and tissues and glands. Swelling of the surfaces of the organs, tissues, and glands. The stomach is an organ, all right? It does have hormones in it that comes out of it. So that would make it kind of like like an endocrine gland, like just like a minor one, you know? Our body has so many hormones that they're still discovering. It's not funny. There are like 50 additional hormones that they really don't discuss at all about your GI tract, that your GI tract does produce, but they're not going to really look at that. I forgot the article that I had on that one. Let me see, can I find that article? No, I don't think it's there. No. Anyways, so that is the Kevin Samuels story. Now here, when I look at Jupiter and the house that is sitting in, that's sitting in Taurus, we're looking at hormonal issues. So swelling of the endocrine glands. So now swelling of the endocrine gland, and there's a line, a detrimental line right here for Scorpio. Scorpio represents the reproductive system. And so when we're looking at the surfaces of the reproductive system, we're looking at possibly in men swelling of the sexual organs or even the prostate. The prostate gland, or the testes, I'm sorry, the testes is your, hormones come out of that, and usually when we have intestinal issues, we usually are having a backup of the lymphatic system, and it will back up to where we're starting to have a swollen prostate. So that is one of the things that will happen. And over time, that irritation, the cells dying and stuff are mutating. They're going to say, oh, you got cancer there, but it takes a while, so let's go, let me see, to the degrees of that. So let's go back here to our handy dandy chart. And we're going to go to Scorpio. And let me see if they have, yep, they got everything there. So We're looking at swelling, surface of the organs. We're looking in the reproductive system, and Neptune was what degree? 19. Neptune is Scorpio 19. So let's go back here and look at Scorpio 19. Where is it? Right here. There we go. Scorpio 19 was uterine ligaments, Haller's nets. And the Haller's knots, that's a really old word, but it's pretty much by the ball sacks. So, so we're looking at the testes of the men. So ligaments in the testicle area, but also causing swelling in that area. All right. So if y'all have any questions or anything, let me know. Let me see, going back to the article I wrote. One of the things that you can help out with this lymphatic system, because when we have stagnation of that lymphatic system, you're going to see tumors. You're going to see, first of all, you're going to see the inflammation, which you're looking at edema, which lets you know lymph nodes are blocked. We got some problems here. And then you're going to start seeing the cysts. Then you're going to start seeing the tumors. And then once that continues the tumors continue to grow, and then the doctors are able to feel it or see it on their machines, and they're going to say, oh, you got cancer. Same thing for fibroid. They'll tell women it's not really a tumor. It is. It's a tumor. It works the same, and it's the same system. You're having an issue with your lymphatic system in the uterine area. You've got stagnation, major stagnation, and you're looking at these guys here not really working. You got to open them up. You got to clean them out. And that's the other thing. When people have operations, especially back in the day, when women had breast cancer, they used to take out the lymph nodes. And when they took out the lymph nodes, whichever side they took it out on, her arm would swell like crazy. It makes no sense. You never ever take out the lymph nodes, because those guys are draining the extra fluid. They're cleaning and draining it out. It makes no sense. Okay, so what are some of the things you can do to keep your lymphatic system moving? So the lymphatic system, the one thing it does not have its own pump. So it depends on your activity. So sisters, the one thing that I see after talking to hundreds of people, per year, we don't work out. Why don't we work out? Is odd. We work, come home, and that's it. And I know y'all are like, you know what, Quilla, I don't have any energy. Oh, there's another issue here. Okay. So I'm looking at your autonomic nervous system at that point is getting worn out. And so that's going to explain why you don't have the energy to want to work out. But there's going to be times when we now have to force ourselves to work out, take the kids out to the park. And like, we're not in parks enough. We don't walk. We don't bicycle. I don't see us in the gym like nothing. And then when I go to the city, I see us a lot. But the amount of Kenesha's versus Becky in the gym, I see Becky in that gym all the time. I see Becky after she done dropped the kid, especially when I lived in Atlanta. You go to Buckhead, them girls got them strollers out, the ones with that bicycle wheel, and they pushing that baby, and them girls are jogging. I didn't see our sisters doing that when I lived in Atlanta. Atlanta's like Chocolate City. I didn't see that. A lot of times I would go to CrossFit and stuff. I didn't see us there. So one of the things that we have to do is essential, that we've got to work out to move this lymphatic system. You can walk, you can cycle, you can go boating, you can row on the rowing machine at your gym. You can have more sex. I mean, you can do that. You can laugh more. And that keeps that lymphatic system moving. But here's the thing, with the lymphatic system, and one of the things I see, you can also do acupuncture to clear out your energy blockages. But these are therapeutic solutions, right? Moving all the time is a therapeutic solution you should always keep in your bag. You should always have that. But you have to fix your diet. That's going to be primary number one. That's key. So diets, though, you're going to be like, what type of diet? So one of the diets I definitely need you guys to stay away from is keto. Stay away from the keto diet, please, because keto is going to back up your lymphatic system and make it stagnate like crazy. You cannot handle the type of diet. Like you're not a cat. You're not a lion. You're not a lioness. We might feel that we are, but unfortunately your digestive system says otherwise. But when that lymphatic system gets backed up, it's a slow, painful death. And that's just how that works. And how does it show up in the body? It shows up in the form of pain, inflammation, heavy periods, fibroids, allergies, especially this time of year. Everybody's talking about their allergies. Oh, I got allergies. No, you have a clogged up head that's backed up. You got nothing but trash in your head. You got to get it out. High blood pressure, low blood pressure, constipation, not moving every day 3 or 4 times a day. Like you're supposed to move your bowels within an hour after you eat. That's not happening, you know? So yeah, this is one of the things that we definitely got to focus on. But the lymphatic system, whatever you've heard the medical field talk about with the lymphatic system, 9 times out of 10, there is not 100%. And so that's just it. The fact that they rediscovered something that was known 200 years ago, is just wow. And they ignored this guy. They were like, oh yeah, it's not true. So they had to use their machines and their modern science to go, oh, this is actually one here. It's crazy. But in my field, we understand the lymphatic system very, very well. And I mean, we're experts at it. We understand the body and how it operates very, very well. We're experts at it. So that's why we're able to take issues like a lymphedema and reverse it. That's how we're able to work and do all that, you know. So, but I also do use tools like this to possibly see, hey, let's see if there's any issues going on. And so far, I have not been wrong about people's health and the way that they're walking, the trajectory of them walking down this issue. So these issues, these red lines can be avoided and prevented. But if you don't know, you're going to walk down these lines that have already been destined for you. Because the day that you were born and you breathed in the earth, what we call the earth brain, you were mapped, bam, just like that, the moment you breathe. And it's like, okay, this planet is pulling on the earth at this point. Here's this planet over here pulling the earth here. And, you know, so you've got all this magnetic pulling that's happening because you are an energy being. You're like a magnet, you're a battery, you're a lot of things, you know, you're even a light being. You are affected by light, you know. But yeah, this has been cool. Y'all let me know if you have any questions or anything. If you want a reading, let me know. You can message me or just put a comment here on this video. Do hashtag replay. That lets me know that you watched it. For those of you that are going to tune in a little bit later. So let me know what you think of it. If there's anything that I left out that was not clear, let me know. And I'll be more than happy to clear it up. Also, if you want to, I do the free health assessments. And I let you know more in 30 minutes what's been going on with your body in the last 30 years that you've been going to your doctor. Unfortunately, in the Black community, we do not get served correctly. We get ignored a lot. So this is why I offer this love gift. It's like worth $150, but I give it to us for free because we need it. You know, we are the bridge the gap that is between our health and the medical system that is systemically racially divided, or it's pretty much, we had medical apartheid happen to us. And I know that. There's a book called Medical Apartheid. Whenever you get a chance to read it, you can also listen to it in audio form. And it's abysmal, the things that they've done in our community and how they've used us as guinea pigs for a lot of the research and development. But then also when we go and see them, they don't give us the same treatment. We have to demand treatment. I mean, you heard Kevin Samuel's story. It's like he had to demand treatment. And why are we having to demand treatment? And we die of things that other racial groups don't die of. So it makes no sense. So that's why we're here. And we truly stand in between that gap so you guys can get empowered, know your body, understand how it works, and have someone explain it to you in simple terms instead of talking to you over your head. That makes no sense, you know. So that's what we do. I naturally rebel against things that hurt our communities. And when I got equipped on learning how to help us, that's what I do. All right. So You can go to DYL Method, and you have an invitation there that you can fill out the free intake form. Doesn't cost anything, nothing but your time. It takes 10 minutes to do. And then you can set your appointment. I get on the phone with you. We take about 45 minutes to an hour, however long it takes for me to go through everything and understand what's really going on with your body. So I can explain to you the steps, because your body gives me a full picture of what's really going on. And sometimes I do have to pull this one out too, just to see, oh, okay, let me start asking you questions about your genetic history and everything. So we go pretty deep. So it's one of the most thorough health assessments that you're ever going to take. And I have many people tell me, my doctor doesn't even do this. And I don't know, I'm like, I know. And that's what we've come to accept in the Black community when it comes to us going to medical doctors. They're good for trauma medicine, but when it comes to your health, you have to take your health into your own hands. So I offer that if you guys want it. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. And I hope you guys have a nice evening. I'll see you guys next Thursday. See ya. So we're gonna look at this.